The crash had shaken the entire valley. Massey had been working in his makeshift workshop when the sky split open with a thunderous roar, and something metallic plummeted through the clouds, leaving a trail of smoke and fire in its wake. By the time he reached the impact site, the forest was still smoldering, trees bent and broken like matchsticks around a crater that glowed with an otherworldly heat. At the center of it all lay a figure in armor unlike anything he had ever seen. She was tall, taller than any woman Massey had encountered, with skin that shimmered faintly blue under the moonlight. Her armor was magnificent intricate plates of what looked like living metal, pulsing with dying light, cracked and shattered from the impact. One arm was twisted at an unnatural angle, and her breathing came in shallow, labored gasps. Massey didn't hesitate. He had always been the type to help first and ask questions later. With considerable effort, he managed to drag her back to his workshop, a converted barn on the edge of the property his grandfather had left him. The journey took hours, and by the time he laid her on his workbench, dawn was breaking. Her armor was a mess. Massive fractures ran through the chest plate, one shoulder guard had completely shattered, and the intricate circuitry that seemed to run through every piece sparked and fizzled dangerously. Massey stood back, wiping sweat from his brow, and made a decision that would change everything. He was a craftsman, a welder and metal worker who had spent years perfecting his trade. If there was one thing he understood, it was broken things and how to fix them. Even if this was technology far beyond anything on Earth, the principles had to be the same. Structure, support, protection. For 3 days straight, Massey worked. He carefully removed the damaged sections, studying each piece with the intensity of an archaeologist uncovering ancient treasure. The metal, if it could even be called that, responded to heat differently than anything he knew. But he adapted. He reinforced weak points with materials from his shop, welding and hammering, polishing and adjusting. Where the original design had gaps, he filled them. Where it was too rigid, he added flexibility. But Massey didn't just repair the armor. He improved it. He added reinforced plating to vulnerable areas, created better joint articulation for mobility, and even managed to reroute some of the mysterious energy circuits to more efficient pathways. He engraved protective symbols from various Earth cultures along the edges, not because he thought they'd work, but because beauty mattered, even in armor, especially in armor meant for a warrior. On the fourth morning, Annie woke up. Her eyes snapped open, brilliant gold irises that seemed to glow with their own inner light. She sat up with a gasp, hands immediately going to her chest, her shoulders, checking for damage, for pain. Her fingers traced the armor, and her expression shifted from confusion to shock to something Massey couldn't quite read. What? Her voice was surprisingly human, though accented with something musical and strange. What have you done? Massey, who had fallen asleep in a chair nearby, jerked awake. You're alive. I'm sorry, I had to fix it. Your armor was destroyed in the crash, and I thought. Annie stood, her movements fluid despite the ordeal she'd been through. She walked to the large mirror Massey kept in the workshop for checking his work. For a long moment, she simply stared at her reflection, turning slowly to examine every angle. The silence stretched unbearably. Massey's heart pounded. Had he offended her? Violated some cultural taboo? Destroyed something irreplaceable with his crude human attempts? Then Annie did something completely unexpected. She laughed. It started as a small sound, almost disbelieving, then grew into genuine laughter that filled the workshop with warmth. She turned to face Massey, and there were tears tracking down her bloating cheeks. In all my years as a sentinel of the Kelthar, she said, her voice thick with emotion, no one has ever. This armor was forged for me when I achieved my rank. It has protected me through 17 campaigns across 9 worlds. It bore the marks of every battle, every victory, every loss. She touched the chest plate reverently. And you primitive human with your simple tools, you made it better. Massey blinked. Is that good? Annie crossed the distance between them in 3 long strides. Before he could react, she placed both hands on his shoulders. Among my people, armor is sacred. It is not just protection, it is a part of us, a reflection of our spirit. To repair another warrior's armor is an honor reserved for master craftsmen who train for decades. To improve it, she shook her head in wonder. That is something else entirely. I really just did what seemed right, Massey said, uncomfortable with the intensity of her gaze. You bonded with it, Annie said softly. You spent days studying it, understanding it, treating it with respect. The armor knows. I can feel the difference. It's stronger, yes, but also, it feels like it understands me better now, like it's more truly mine than it ever was. She stepped back, and something like a smile crossed her alien features. You have given me a gift I can never repay. You don't need to repay anything, Massey said. You were hurt, I helped. That's just what people do. Annie's golden eyes studied him with new appreciation. Perhaps that's true of your people. Mine are warriors first, always. We forget sometimes that strength comes in many forms. She looked down at her armor again, at the careful engravings, the reinforced joints, the evidence of countless hours of patient work. I came to this world by accident, fleeing from an enemy I could not defeat. I thought I would die here, unknown and unmourned. Well, you didn't die, Massey said, and now you've got armor that's better than before. So, what happens now? Annie's expression turned serious. Now I must return to my ship if it still functions, and rejoin the war. But I will remember this place, and I will remember you, Massey of Earth. She paused. Would you teach me about your craft? I have time before my ship is ready, and I think perhaps there is more I need to learn from humans than I thought. Massey grinned. Sure, but only if you teach me about where you're from. Annie extended her hand, and when Massey took it, her grip was firm and warm despite the strangeness of her skin. It is a bargain, craftsman. Though I warn you, the stories of the Kelthar are long and filled with battles. Good thing I'm a good listener, Massey replied. As the morning sun streamed through the workshop windows, warrior and craftsman stood together, and somehow, despite the impossibility of it all, it felt like the beginning of something extraordinary. Annie's armor gleamed in the light, a testament to the strange alchemy that happens when respect meets skill, and when two worlds, however different, find common ground in the simple act of helping another living being survive. The enemy that hunted Annie would eventually find her. Her ship would be repaired. Choices would need to be made. But in that moment, standing in a converted barn on Earth with a human who had seen her broken and chose to make her whole, Annie felt something she hadn't experienced in years.